And we are live. It's another great day. Cribl TV. So glad to have Stuart Bowell from Netbuilder with us today. One of our treasured partners that helps our customers use Cribl, implement Cribl, get value from Cribl. So pleased to have Stuart here. He's one of my favorite persons. Love partnering with him as we deal with customers. How you doing today, Stuart?
I'm doing great, thanks, Ed. How have you been? It's
Doing
great to
pretty
be on here
good.
with you.
Absolutely. I'm so glad. So tell me, where are you coming from?
So I'm coming out of Oxford, England. We as a company, Netbuilder, work in both the UK and the US, and we're expanding out around the globe as well. But I'm in the UK at the moment. I'll be back over the pond in a few weeks' time.
Very good. So can you tell me a little bit about what NetBuilder does? It's a little bit different than most services organizations.
Yeah, that's right. So NetBuilder has been around for over 20 years. We've placed over 10,000 consultants, and what I do is I run the observability practice for NetBuilder globally. The biggest difference I think between us and a lot of other consultancies is quite often you'll have a consultancy who is absolutely fantastic, but they will specialize in just one technology. And what we have been able to do is with our sister company, the Software Institute, we produce engineers and consultants who are able to deploy in multi-skills. So a lot of the team that I work with, I'm very lucky to work with, are not only super smart guys and girls, but they're also multi-skilled. So whether that's Cribl or a whole bunch of other technologies, including all the usuals, Splunk and Elastic and CrowdStrike and et cetera, et cetera. So it makes it really interesting, and it helps our customers a lot because we can come in and we can work on anything, and that's really a bonus.
Absolutely, and y'all do great work, which I really appreciate. Now, there's one key detail here I wanted to ask you about. You mentioned something about placing 10,000 consultants. What does that mean?
So in our history, we have always been able to provide an expert service. And back in the day, we had an academy model. So we would bring in graduates, people who had the right base level of knowledge and skills and background, and we would be able to train them up to be certified in the relevant technologies. That has enabled us to place people all around the world with all sorts of different companies in every facet of IT, from automated testing, software development, CI/CD and automation, observability, cloud, cybersecurity, pretty much anything you can think of. We've been able to do that, and we have built a number of very successful partnerships with companies just like Cribl to be able to deploy those kind of skills out to the market. There's a digital skills gap. There's more jobs, and there's not enough people. There's not enough people who are trained and qualified, and that's where our founder Tony Lysak was able to help generate a new architecture, if you will, for deploying consultants and engineers into the field, and we call that our L+N model. The L+N model is very simple. The L is a leader. It would be someone like myself or some of the other principal and senior consultants that work at NetBuilder. They have the experience, the knowledge, the skill set, all of the different kind of facets of being able to deliver a quality engagement to what the client needs. And then we're able to take the N's, the engineers, and those engineers are then able to be deployed to a client. And we have a number of different ways that we do that. One of the main ways, obviously, recently with COVID in the last few years, is to include remote options. But we could equally hire, train, and deploy people wherever they're needed from our customer base.
Nice.
So it works really well. The client gets a much better cost saving on not having to hire 5 senior consultants. They can hire 1 and 4 engineers. We guarantee all the quality. We guarantee all of the work that we do. And in a very similar vein to Cribl, we always put our customers first. So that helps a lot with ensuring successful engagements.
Yeah, absolutely. So I may have this wrong, but as part of your model also that the company that hires the consultant potentially has an option to that the company that's using the consultant has the option of potentially hiring the consultant as well?
That's correct on our longer term engagements. What we normally do is we want to prove ourselves, and we have a lot of history. As I said, over 10,000 consultants in the last, I think it's 23 years. So we have a lot of experience to call on. But nevertheless, customers often want to try before they buy. So there are occasions where we'll go in and do a small engagement, maybe for 2 or 3 months, show what we can do. And off the back of that, we then, or even before, we may engage with a client and say, sign up for a 12, 18, 24-month engagement where we can deploy a team. And at the end of that engagement, there's commercial terms apply, so I won't promise anything. But we then can give the client the option to be able to hire those team members, not the L, not the senior. The seniors stay with us, but that gives the client the ability to get their project done, get people trained on it, get them deployed, so that the engineers know the company, know the culture. The client has the opportunity to see who works for them, who fits in, and I think there's a very high percentage success rate in those types of engagements, where I think it's north of 90% of clients who exercise their option take on those people. So it works really well for everyone.
Yeah, it's a great option, especially if you're deploying a net new technology into an organization. I can't tell you, the tool almost doesn't matter if you don't have people who can't run it. And being
Exactly.
able to hire someone that already has that previous experience, that already knows your processes, is already familiar with how you do things, I think is invaluable. So I mean, I think that's a really interesting part of your model that I haven't really seen before.
No, definitely. It's worked very successfully with a number of clients already, and I'm very happy to say it's continuing to work. We're building up a much larger client base every day, every week. We've got some great sales teams in the UK and the US who are making a huge difference, and we're about to open in Australia as well.
Wow,
to service the APAC market too.
that's great. You're going to get a lot of miles.
Hope so.
There you go. So you see a lot of companies. You see the industry in a very broad way. So what do you see right now? The big concerns in the observability and security community. What are the challenges, and how have you tried to solve those challenges? Can you give me
So
some
I think
examples?
absolutely. I think a lot of companies in the observability space, especially, have been very much focusing on moving from on-prem data centers to cloud. They've started the lift and shift. They're partway through that journey, and they've got to a point where they've realized that their legacy observability tooling and automation tooling, to a degree, is okay, but they want more choice, and they want to use more tools, and they feel locked in. And I think that's where Cribl has come along and kind of put a key in the padlock and opened it up and said, you know what? It's your data. Put Cribl in, get your data into Cribl. You can shape it how you want. You can reduce it, mask it, all of those great use cases that you guys offer, and then send it to the destination that makes sense to you. That has really shaken the market. But on top of that, the clients, I think, are able to then look at how they are using this tooling and saying, well, you know what, we want to keep what we've got already for X, Y, and Z, but we want to move our APM monitoring to another platform. We're building out some Kubernetes microservices, and we want to use a different tool for that, or a different analysis tool. The volumes of data are just going crazy. When I started a long time ago, a few gigabytes of logs would represent a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months. Now it's less than a few hours, maybe even less, depending on the type of devices and endpoints that we're talking about. So there's a lot of new challenges, and I think observability is really about shifting the focus from monitoring something has happened to observability, which is why has it happened? Where has it happened? How can we get there and sort that out to reduce the reputational damage that can happen to clients if a service is down, or if it's been hacked, or if there's cybersecurity concerns, or whatever it might be. And I think a lot of clients are in competition with each other as well. They're seeing that their competitors can react faster and more accurately to deploy the resources where they're needed to be able to fix or deal with any kind of issues that come up. And that's why it's becoming such a hot space. On top of that, there's a lot of new entrants to the market. I search the internet a lot, looking for the latest tools, and there seems to be a new observability tool or company almost on a weekly basis recently. And there's so much to choose from that people can get real value for their money now. And that's what they're really interested in doing is building an observability strategy to make sure that they are protecting their reputation, they're protecting their business, they're facilitating the delivery of whatever service or product that they might create, that they're in line with all of the different governments, compliance, and all of those types of things that they have to do now with their data, which is just causing a huge amount of work for things that in my, when I first started, as I said, it wasn't really a concern. The only people who ever looked at logs were developers.
Right.
But obviously this was a good time ago now.
So do you see this changes in observability and security, in just observability? Are you also seeing these kind of changes and migrations in security as well?
I think security as well. I think the two are very slowly overlapping now. They're, in terms of a Venn diagram, cybersecurity and observability are almost interchangeable. Cybersecurity is a much better known word, but I think observability is something that in 10 years' time everyone will know that observability doesn't just mean monitoring some servers. It's it encompasses cybersecurity and all of the other facets of log and metrics and tracing.
Yeah, I agree. I really think I really like to see security adopt more of the predictive analytics and insight-based models of observability. It sounds like you're seeing a lot of change where companies and customers are looking to better themselves, and so they want the ability to split their data and adopt new tools more rapidly. Are you seeing any other use cases that are interesting?
I think a lot of people are taking advantage at the moment of the new entrants into the market. There's been a lot of the engagements that we've been working on are to migrate existing SIEMs to other SIEMs for various reasons. Sometimes it's because the cloud provider that they're using has a SIEM that is more financially viable. Other clients are really just getting new CISOs or CTOs who are looking at the volumes of data that are being produced, working with their compliance departments and realizing that, we need to keep this stuff and we need to keep it in a way that we can do something with it, not just this analytics tool, which is great for a NOC or a SOC to be able to monitor their networks, but it isn't so great to generate reporting and things like that.
It's incredible how much time and energy is spent on retention. You think that's kind of boring, but it is required. It's something you have to do, and it's a problem if you're not prepared for it.
And on top of that, I think there's a lot of hidden value in the retention of this data. You can go back and look, and it will help you, predict what your future uses might be in terms of data and tooling and products and services. So it's really it's almost a revolution, I think, at the moment, and we're at the forefront of that along with Cribl. We're embracing all of those different things. Some of the engagements we worked on recently are to help companies build an observability strategy. One of the great terms that I heard from a client the other day, which I absolutely love, is they wanted Cribl to be their observability backbone. Right. Everything flows into Cribl. Everything is then made available so that using the various different pieces of functionality that you guys have, they can make some data available to their NOC and networking teams. They've got their cybersecurity teams. And sometimes we're seeing now that marketing and the sales teams are interested to see, well, who's sending things to us? Where are we getting the connections from? And it's another source of data that people didn't have access to before. So very exciting times.
Yeah, I agree. And then I'm glad you're seeing companies do this, because I'm seeing a lack of an overall strategy, a lack of a data strategy really limits their ability to be successful. And as you mentioned, companies routinely park ungodly amounts of data in their retention and object storage, but don't ever look at it again. They're not asking questions of that data. I think that's it's a real waste, because there's a lot of opportunity for success in so many different ways. I think that's why it's so important. And that's one thing I offer when I talk to customers. It's like, let's talk about your strategies. Like, let's not talk about your tool. Let's talk about what's your end goal. What are the business value that you're looking to get? Because I think it's very underrated. There's too much time spent on what's happening right now instead of how can we use all this data we have in order to make the right now a little easier.
Absolutely. I think the untapped potential of the data that is being returned in so many different ways, and some are, we haven't seen everything in terms of what you can do with it, but some of the use cases that we've been working with on our customers is like, wow, I've never even thought of doing it like that, or I've never, I can't share two specific examples of that, but it's there's huge potential, and that's what we're good at, is helping people unlock those ideas, develop them. And in addition to that, I think the other key aspect is making it maintainable. If you're going to go down a data strategy of holding this information in retention, you need to be able to then use that data. You need to be able to maintain the systems as you're introducing more data sources, as you're introducing more destinations. How are you going to manage that? And that's a real key aspect as well, I think.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's all over that overarching strategy, and try to get teams out of that tactical thinking of here what's the long-term plan, what's the long-term goals. So can you share? So what's the biggest most interesting struggle that you've seen lately? You don't have to get any specifics about names or anything, but just try to help you. I think it helps viewers when it's more relatable, because I firmly believe that the community shares many of the same problems, and that by finding out how someone else solved these problems, it can help them. So can you, is there anything that comes to mind that you can share?
Absolutely. I think some of the more interesting projects actually have a very central theme in as much as when they are adopting new data observability strategies, they've received a proof of concept from a company like Cribl. They've seen how easy it is to use some of these tools these days, and in comparison to your syslogs and syslog NGs and some of the other tooling, it's so much easier to use the UI. But once the proof of concept or the proof of value is done and the client can see the value in it, they race into it. They try and, okay, we want get this and get that, and let's dump this in here, and very quickly they can see how, or I can see how the maintenance and management of this platform going forward is going to be so difficult, because they're going to have hundreds of different data sources with multiple destinations. So what we've been doing a lot is we've been helping the clients use categorization and tagging of data, so that they can then if they need to split that data and send it in different formats to different destinations, you can have a much smaller subset of packs within Cribl, and bundling up your pipelines and your knowledge objects, and putting some architecture and naming conventions, and putting that time and effort in at the beginning, I think is just such huge value further down the road, because it makes it maintainable. Training is easier, and you can put in several processes around it, including automation. And one of the things that has been also very useful, just going off on a slight tangent, is the Cribl API. That is fantastic to help a number of the customers we're working with now build out self-service platforms for their own internal customers. Mm-hmm. So we work with a lot of large financial institutions and pharmaceutical corporations around the world. Heavy governance from all of the different entities in the US, in the EU, all around the world, to ensure that you're masking PII data, so that in Europe you've got the GDPR, the General Data Protection. I forget the R, but you have to be able to control that data. And generally, when you're onboarding data into these systems, it's not just going to be a Cribl. It's going to be, we want to onboard a Cribl, and we want to onboard maybe a Splunk or an Elastic or a CrowdStrike have got log scale now. So a lot of different technologies are being brought together, so it makes it easier for the consumers and the data owners to be able to route that data into the places they want to. So it's a I think with the different skill sets and experience and the huge volume of customers and consultants that we've placed, we've been very fortunate to learn so many things about how many different customers and clients deal with some of these challenges, and we're able to then strategize with them, deploy teams, deliver the projects and solutions. And as you were saying at the beginning, because of our unique model, that if we do a 12, 18-month engagement, or maybe even longer, at the end of that, the clients can then bring that same team who built it into their company. So it helps the engineers who are trying to break into a very difficult market. It helps the clients because they get a project that not only finishes and it works, but no one knows how it works. It's like, well, you can bring the team in and they're yours. Yep. So yeah, I think when you're investing in these tools, when the clients are investing in these tools, it is important to not rush it, to think about how they can get the value from the product, which is ultimately why they've got it in the first place. But more importantly, how they can manage and maintain it and administer it and make it useful to as many different areas of the business as possible.
Yeah, that is a real struggle. I see companies get so excited and they dive right in without, a lot of times you're not thinking about the long-term sustainability. And that's why I think it's very important to have a good SDLC process in place, where when you're onboarding data in a very deliberate manner, where you're doing that upfront documentation, because that is the problem. One of the bigger problems I see is you get 6 months down the road and all of a sudden it's a mess. And so and then you have to do rework, and then you start slowing down your rollout. And so it's hard to do, as people are excited. And then I get it. You're excited, you're like, wow, I can solve this problem so much faster than I could before. But now you got to think about things a little bit differently than you did previously.
Absolutely. And I think this is where sometimes people are making decisions very quickly, which is great because that's how things get done in the world. But at the same time, having that vision and strategy, whether it's from the CTO or the head of the department, whoever's kind of overseeing that transformation, it needs to be clearly shared with the teams. And sometimes I've seen clients do that really well, and there's a few clients who could improve in some of those areas. But it's an exciting time. I've done a lot of different roles in my career, but the center of all of it is always data,
Right.
because that's why you have IT systems in the first place. And it just needs to be. I think, with the advent of artificial general intelligence and the chat GPTs, with all the APIs that are available there, you've got AI operations, you've got machine learning. I think we've touched on some of this already. There's huge benefits that are around the corner, and more importantly, there are companies who are embracing that, and there are companies who are unsure as how to proceed. And that's another area that we can help our clients with, and Cribl's clients, to shape how they do that.
I mean, when you get down to it, I mean, the cost is all the systems to produce the data, but the value is the data. And if you're not asking questions and analyzing that data, you're using so much value of your system. So much of the investment to generate the data is just wasted. And so I think you're absolutely right.
I think on top of that as well, every company has clients, whether it's B2B or B2C, whoever your client base is as a company, and we experience this ourselves, is traditionally I've seen people who have obviously embraced social media and how many impressions and likes and all of those things, which is obviously very important. But when you think about firewalls, when you think about some of the underlying technology that is powering some of these companies, there is huge value in that data as well, to see, well, what are my clients using? Are they using iPhones or Android? Are they using desktops or laptops? How are they interfacing with us?
Where are they coming from? I mean, that's
where are they coming from
in terms of understanding your market, understanding what they're doing, why. There's so much data, so much value in what you can do.
I'm surprised there aren't more CDOs, chief data officers, in companies. I think that's a new role that will maybe not call exactly that, but I think in the coming, certainly by the end of the next generation, we will see more chief data officers whose only role will be to provide governance and security around the data that they hold, to be able to use that data effectively in all the different facets of the business, whether it's finance, sales, operations, customer service, and just being able to tell when there is a problem with your systems. If someone's online payment provider goes down, that can cause huge reputational damage to clients.
Absolutely.
And traditionally, they would find out by looking on Twitter or X, as it's called now.
Right.
So, yeah.
I had a kind of a revelation the other day that I want to get your feedback on. We're kind of talking, and I was talking to an executive, and the thing that kind of struck me was, like, there are CDOs, and think about the difference in how BI is treated versus observability data. And yes. I think that you see the focus is on business intelligence, and they see the observability data that we work with every day is not really relevant or outside the scope of what they care about. And I think that that's kind of a mistake, because you look at how companies, the time and attention, the long-term development, schema management, data warehouses, all this effort that's put toward what's considered BI data. But I would say easily 30-40% of the data in a company is observability data. It's a massive chunk of information that's largely ignored. And that if the data disappears or it's lost, it's like, oh, well, where if it's business intelligence information is messed up and it messes up your end of the year, end of the month reporting, there can be some real repercussions inside of an organization because of how executives rely upon that data. But it's just interesting. Of two giant buckets of data that are treated very differently. I kind of want to get your thoughts there.
I think I completely agree with you. In my previous life, I worked for a financial institution in the city of London, and the only focus was on the BI data, on the preparing of end of day, end of month, end of year accounts and trading transactions and those kind of things. And it was never even considered to look at, well, how have the servers been doing that are powering the trading applications? How about all of the websites and apps that are being used to facilitate the clients and to see how they're making their decisions? So I couldn't agree more that I think the focus and to a degree I can understand why, because the BI data is obviously business facing information that they can understand, whereas observability data I think is still kind of misty. It's like, well, what is it? I don't really get it.
Right.
And I think with some basic knowledge and sharing of how important it can be and the kind of value you can get out of it, it changes the dynamic completely. And really, I don't think one's more important than the other. I think they're as important as each other. And if you actually can merge them together and see how they interlink, it can give companies even better foresight and understanding of how their clients are consuming their services and products.
Very much so, and especially the discipline and the process of the data. I think about if there's an unplanned change in your application data that throws off your monitoring, or unplanned changes in your security data so the detection doesn't fire, it just doesn't have the same sort of discipline process involved, and I'm not sure the same sort of expectations for observability data as with BI data, and that's something that I think we continue to talk about and just talk about those with leaders and just try to have that discussion, because I think it'd be very illuminating if they would start thinking about it as it's all of our data, it's all of there's business intelligence in all of it, and so. And that's also where, like, I've talked with BI leaders and they said they can't get access to the data, for example, because it's too volatile. There's too many different, it's not stable enough. And they talk about, we spent years planning out our data warehouse schema, and everything over here changes all the time. So it's icky and we don't want to touch it. Yeah. And I think, and that's where, kind of think about Cribl tools as a gateway to get access to this icky data, but put it into the kind of form that you can get business intelligence out of it. So I think that's going to be one of the themes this year of, how can we bring observability up to a first class level of data.
And I think, Cribl are doing a great job of continually adding new sources of data, but also new destinations as well. And that's giving the feasibility to the clients that they can export it into the formats that make sense to them. They can remove the ickiness and get it to a point where it's of value without having to have a degree in cybersecurity or something like that to understand some of the information coming out.
Absolutely. So we're coming to an end a little bit. So do you have any kind of funny story you can share? Something that you've run into that might anyone who works in this space might laugh about?
Oh gosh!
Without putting you on the spot.
I think I'm probably going to have a think about that and come back to you on the next one, because there's a few, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly the best one to start with, and I would need to check on that first. But there's certainly a lot of excitement, which is causing a huge reaction. And working with the companies that we are and the partnerships that we have, the excellent partnership that we have with Cribl is just is creating new stories all the time.
Yeah, I really appreciate y'all's partnership, because I think it's just have that bridge to work with customers, spend time with them. I especially like your model about being able to place engineers with companies, because I think it gives them a real boost. Because you see it all the time from a service model standpoint, that you come in, you set it up, and you leave. And the people that are there are like, what do we do now? And so,
how does this work? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's invaluable. And I hope more companies pay attention to that, because you buying tools without also building an expertise of the tools is kind of a waste of time. And so I think it's just
absolutely.
I think it's a really good way to look at it. Well,
certainly to realize the potential.
Absolutely.
If you spend the money, you should realize the potential.
Yeah, absolutely. It's part of the setup, is building expertise to get good at it.
Exactly.
So, do you have any closing thoughts? Anything that you want to share? I mean, what are your big themes going forward this year?
The big themes for Netbuilder this year are expanding our our global territories. So as I said, we're already very well embedded in both the US and the UK and EMEA. We're now opening in APAC and Australia specifically, which is really exciting. We already have a number of delivery centers around the world, so we're trying to expand those as well. So we have different, chase the sun models to help with managed support and managed services. And the other thing is looking for more technology partnerships and reseller partnerships. One of the key things that I think is really important with Netbuilder is we want to be the partner of partners. We want to work with other partners where we can help fill some of the gaps that they might have, or some of the niches that they might not be able to fill as easily. And I think we've got a number of new technology partnerships which we've already been working on this year. So just a lot bigger and better. I think it's a really exciting time, and I'm really looking forward to 2024.
Absolutely. Can't wait to keep working with you. And please, I want you to come
you as
back.
well, sir.
Yeah, please come back and join our live stream. I think it's a great conversation. So for everyone out there, please take a look at Netbuilder. Stuart Bowell is one of the experts, one of the leaders. He is the L in that model. And so please consider looking at Netbuilder. They do a fantastic job. I've always been appreciated with the customer first mentality of just really going the extra mile to make sure the customer has what they need and give that honest quality advice that I think companies should absolutely value. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, Ed. I look forward to working with you on some more projects real soon as well. It's always a pleasure to help educate and improve some of our combined clients' experiences.
Absolutely. So thank you, everyone, for your time. Please consider joining the Cribl community. Go to cribl.io/community. Join our Slack community. It's over 6,000 strong right now, and you will have surprising answers from surprising people. Especially, it's always interesting when the founders start getting on the Cribl community and start answering questions. People don't quite realize who that is, but we really appreciate it. I think everyone we've all been there. We know what it's like. We want to help. We want to help our customers because we intimately know the challenges that y'all are going through, and we're here to help. So have a great day. And I hope we'll have Stuart back on the Cribl live stream very soon. So thank you very much.